is Cassidy, and today I'm going to be making soup. I'm sure everyone has had soup at least once in their lives, but if not, let me enlighten you. Soup is a liquid dish typically made by boiling meat, fish, or vegetables in some sort of stock or water. The great thing about soup is that there's no really single recipe for it. The dish itself is not special, but it can be dressed up as a 5-star quality meal, or it can be a signature broke college student's dinner. Either way, it tastes great while being perfected to one's exact liking with any ingredient one pleases. To begin your soup, you're going to want to first choose your desired base, which can be some sort of stock, like chicken broth or water, or maybe a tomato puree if you fancy tomato soup. Tonight I will be using this chicken broth, and I will show you how to make a delicious ramen soup ideal for college students like myself or anyone else on a budget. Soup is also great for when you're not feeling well. We are in the middle of the pandemic amidst cold and flu season, so you may want to pay close attention. You'll never know when a bowl of soup will be coming in handy. First, we're going to want to pour some chicken broth into a bowl, however much you like. And then I'm also going to be adding some water because the chicken broth tends to be very heavy in taste and it's also kind of thick. Now the contents of the soup can be really anything you'd like. Today I used some noodles from just some instant ramen meal, chicken flavor. You could also, if you like to do it another way, you could also get a bowl of water, bring it to a boil, add some chicken to it or any other meat, and you could add celery, carrots, and what other vegetables you'd like. Next, you're going to want to place it in the microwave. I'm going to be cooking it for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to stir it and put it in for another 2 minutes. If you don't want to use the microwave, you could also, like I said, bring it all to a boil on a stovetop. But if you don't have the time for that or a big pot, then the microwave will do just fine. Next, you'll want to get your other ingredients. I'm going to be using some tomatoes. You may be thinking tomatoes are kind of weird, but like I previously noted, there's no one single recipe for soup, and you may find that you can make soup out of really any ingredients you may have in your fridge. Now, once the noodles are done boiling, we're going to stir them. And just use a fork for this part. Now, at first, they may still be stuck together, kind of stiff. You're going to want to make sure the noodles are very soft and they're not crunchy or stiff and difficult to mix in. After you have stirred the noodles up a little bit and made sure the water isn't overflowing the microwave, you can put it back in for another 2 minutes. Because the tomatoes are kind of large, I'm going to be using this knife to cut them all in half while the noodles are in the microwave. And you can also use like celery, carrots, any other vegetable you might like. However, I'm in quarantine and I don't have access to the store, so I have to work with what I have, and right now it's just tomatoes. Now, another way to add more flavor to the soup is to add other spices, and I will be using garlic powder, oregano leaves, salt and pepper, and a little bit of lemon juice. I know, you might think that's a little weird too, but I have found over critiquing my top ramen recipe that a little bit of lemon juice actually tastes pretty good in chicken top ramen. Now we'll wait for the other 2 minutes to be done with the noodles, and then we can start adding our spices and tomatoes. And Another important thing I'd like to add on making soup is you never at any point want to dump out your broth or any of the liquid base in your soup while you're making it, because you can lose flavor this way. You can dump out the broth and everything else you've already put into the soup, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. If your soup is a little too soupy for your liking, I'd recommend adding more meat, noodles, vegetables, and other things rather than taking away from it, and that way you can just have more for later. So it's a win-win that way. Alright, our noodles are almost done. And so I'm going to want to take them out. They might be a little hot coming out of the microwave and on the stove top, so when handling the bowl or pot, you might want to use one of these. So take it out. Nice. Careful not to dip the pot holder into the soup like I did. Alright, now that the noodles are done, they're going to be this nice texture. And usually, I'd recommend adding the vegetables to the soup while it's cooking and boiling, especially for carrots and celery and harder vegetables like that. For these tomatoes, I'm just going to dump them in after, because I don't really like them to be mushy. We're not making tomato soup here, so it's not really what I'm going for. And now, after all of the tomatoes are in the soup, you're going to want to add your spices. And I would say just a pinch of each, especially the salt with the chicken broth already in the soup. It's going to already be kind of salty, so just a little bit of that. Some oregano. Okay, so just a few sprinkles of each. If you're in college like me and you don't have anything to measure these out, that's perfectly fine. Soup does not need to be fancy all the time. For the lemon juice, I'm just gonna add a few, little 1, 2, perfect. And then you're gonna wanna mix it all together. Perfect. And then it'll just be, and now you have soup. Give you a little close up. Here you have some tomato chicken top ramen soup.